This week on the Eldritch Lorecast.
The Eldritch Lorecast has a new host.
Wow, call it now. 2026 is done.
Roadmaps that Wizards have been putting out the last few years.
And a lot of it may be the types of products that they have planned. I have no idea what that could be.
When you're not doing a crowdfunder, it's much harder to anticipate the level of demand for a product like this.
What's interesting to me is not the initial sales.
It's still there, the magic.
Vecna in the new Stranger Things season, his redesign.
Really juiced up Vecna.
All I'm more right now! Hello everybody and welcome to this week's episode of the Eldritch Lorecast, the number one and most relaxed tabletop RPG podcast in all the realms. That's right, we are coming back off holiday. I'm feeling pretty relaxed. My name's Ben Byrne and I am joined, as always, never not by anyone else except for Shawn Merwin, Dael Kingsmill and Todd Kenreck. And Todd, I have to ask, when you think D&D vacations, what's your ideal tabletop themed vacation?
I've had no time to think about this in any way, so I don't know my idea. I actually had quite a fun time. Officially, actually, I really like D&D in a castle, but like a D&D themed vacation, I think would be like in the Labyrinth. Like if I had to go through a Labyrinth or something, like a D&D themed kind of literally a theme park that was D&D themed, I think would be on brand for the old school D&D cartoon. I think that would be amazing. Can you imagine actually having the cartoon, the roller coaster from that cartoon, and have that experience? And like Venger comes out of the shadows and chases you and tries to murder you. I think that would be great. That
they had a roller coaster in the D&D cartoon?
Yeah, that's how they get there. They get onto a roller coaster at the beginning, and then they're in the D&D land for no reason. Then there's Tiamat.
Yeah. Okay, yeah.
A very low CR Tiamat.
Dael Kingsmill, what about yourself when you think ultimate tabletop themed holiday?
I've just thought of this, so I don't know how long I'll stand by it. But you know how some museums do those like overnight stays, usually for like schools? I would love to do an overnight stay in a museum where you play Call of Cthulhu.
Oh my God. That's so good.
And you have to go to different exhibits for different parts of the game. That'd be really fun.
I would go to a fake Cthulhu museum. 100%.
Oh, yeah.
Shawn Merwin, what about yourself?
The catacombs of Paris, for me, are an incredibly D&D-ish, especially Grim Hollow-ish sort of place where you can get lost and probably get murdered if you're not careful. So, yeah, you got that going for you.
This is the first time everyone's skewed more goth than me. I don't like this at all.
Todd, strap yourself in,
up.
mate. You all went really high concept, though. I legitimately was just thinking like, you know, getting a cabin with some friends and playing D&D all weekend. But yours sound like real adventure holidays as opposed to the chill. But I'm a pretty chill holiday goer. But the holidays are over. It is time to get back into a new year of tabletop RPGs. I don't have a shirt transition, unfortunately. I didn't think that far ahead.
Velcro, you just rip it off.
Imagine. But we are going to get straight into the news this week with the biggest news of all, which is that the Eldritch Lorecast has a new host, a new permanent co-host who will be with us week in, week out. And that person is with us right now. Todd Kenreck, welcome aboard the Eldritch Lorecast.
Thank you so much. Yeah, I appreciate it. Yeah, I'm really excited because I want to get rid of Joey Haig so much. Because I enjoyed my guest appearance. I really thought I'd rather be on this show. So I devised a plot where Wizards would hire Joey and he would have to leave. I made sure it was in the legal that he had to leave. And so now I'm here and I've taken his place. I'll do anything to remove someone from their position.
Okay, everybody take notes. Todd has knives in his suitcase.
It's not the best. It's not the best scheme. Admittedly. But it worked. So
yeah,
I'm here.
It worked out for Joey.
Todd's holiday idea involved nearly getting murdered. So, I mean...
That's true.
We're setting up a theme here. Yeah. I would like to say, welcome, Todd.
I can only roll a D14 in your honor.
Thank you so much.
Ow, I think I burnt myself.
Yeah.
Roll a D100. I've almost seen people die at the table. No pun intended. I'm more worried about your fingers. Are they burned?
Yeah, I don't know what happened. That's never happened before.
Did you hold too close to the top of it?
Yeah.
You got to be careful with those party poppers.
No, I've never actually used
In
one.
fact, quite the opposite.
I don't know.
Don't let this encourage you. So yes, welcome aboard, Todd. We are extremely excited to have you as well. Though no one, of course, could replace James Hake, you're definitely fitting our at least 6 foot tall quota. So that is exciting.
I am very excited to be here. I had such a wonderful time guesting before. I genuinely was excited when you all reached out. So.
Speaking of exciting things, there's apparently not too much to get excited about for the rest of the year yet.
Wow, call it now. 2026 is done.
This is a reference to...
On the 2027.
Yeah, exactly. Let's just speed through this one. So there's been a couple of speculative articles that have popped up across the place by the fact that Wizards of the Coast have not yet really made any announcements of any of their core book products that are going to be coming out in 2026. And I feel like the audience is a little spoiled for their 6 to 12 month in ahead roadmaps that Wizards have been putting out the last few years, because that was not always the case. And EN World, in fact, pointed out that we didn't know any of the books officially announced last year in 2025, January either, except for the Monster Manual. So yeah, I don't know. I just kind of brought this up. A, what are folks hoping for in 2026? And B, to kind of try to calm the waters a little bit in terms of people being like, Wizards have no books left. They wouldn't have just hired James Hake if they had no books left coming. What do we think? What are we hoping for? What would be good?
I mean, this comes down to a lot of different marketing strategies that you see. That's why people should probably relax a little bit. It depends whether you work on video games or whether you work in movies. There are times where a game will literally drop a trailer the day the game comes out. We've seen that with indie stuff. And then sometimes you don't say anything until 3 months out. Sometimes you say something 2 years out. So this constantly changes. Yeah, clearly Wizards is still making books. They're hiring people. So I wouldn't be too afraid. Plus, Unearthed Arcana is constantly telegraphing the future of D&D. So we know that work is being done. But we're always hungry for news and knowledge and wanting to get excited for the next big thing. So I totally understand that from that perspective.
Yeah.
But I don't suspect there's a drought.
Yeah, I feel like my instinct is that Marvel, the MCU, has something to answer for in terms of laying out these expansive roadmaps over multiple years. But then if I go back even further, it's probably Steve Jobs' fault somehow.
Right to jail, right away.
With the Apple products sort of roadmaps. But I mean, really, for 2026, I'm just hoping that I don't have to have opinions on things that haven't come out yet. If something, please, I can't keep doing it. The well is running dry.
That's a very good point about Marvel, though. But it's like the Blade movie that will never happen. It's been 7 years. They really, when you release a roadmap that long, you are shooting yourself in the foot every time.
Mm-hmm. For sure. It also sets up expectations that naturally have to shift, right? I think people were concerned because was it Forge of the Artificer got delayed last year for just, printing press errors, which happens. And so, we feel the pressure here as well at any publishing company or any company that creates product. If you announce things the further out, the more risk there is of plans changing, things shifting. People are naturally allowed to be, a little upset if plans have to change for whatever reason. But at least if you kind of keep things a little closer to the chest, you have that ability to shift things without disgruntling the audience's expectations. So.
And a lot of it may be the types of products that they have planned. I have no idea what that could be, but if they're going to sort of smaller things, you don't need to address them so far ahead of time and make a big deal about them. When it was one hardcover per year and that became a big community celebration, then you sort of had to do that to prepare things marketing wise, to prepare all the things that could go on around it. One of the first times I met Todd in person was in Los Angeles at the Descent into Avernus big release. And that was a huge party. And you needed to have that lead time in order to put together all of the people that were there, all of the streamers, all of the people that made the games that people were playing. And if you're going to do shorter things, if you're going to do things that maybe don't need that sort of attention, then it's better off just to have it released when it releases.
Dael, were you and James also at that Descent into Avernus event? Oh, man, the only one without a party invite.
Yeah,
That's where we met.
That's true.
Joey worked for me back then, so he used up
Right. When you were planning their demise
Yes.
by getting them hired.
Early days.
Yeah. Is there anything in particular folks are hoping for? I mean, from the Unearthed Arcana, folks are hoping perhaps there is the suggestion of a Dark Sun something or other based on the Scion class that they released last year. I think they also did an Unearthed Arcana for horror-themed subclasses at one point. So whether that's pointing to a more horror-style setting or whether maybe that was part of... I haven't looked at the Astarian little supplement that they did for the Forgotten Realms. Maybe that was tied into that. Was that any good? I don't know. I didn't look at it.
Hollywood celebrities. What do they know? Do they know things? Let's find out.
I do. I always enjoy very niche content, and I love vampire stuff. I love it. There was a feat though that was so situational, and this is my only real criticism because a lot of it's okay. This is a clearly vampire focused product, so a lot of the things are going to be very specific and only applicable to vampire related adventures. However, there is a feat that turns the cantrip, the light cantrip, into actual sunlight, and that was not my favorite because I have no use for that in my game if I'm not in a vampire adventure. And if I am in a vampire adventure, that's insanely OP. To just be dropping 20 radiant damage per turn at will in a vampire campaign, not so fun for me. I think it's well-meaning and interesting, but when you really look at how you would use it or not use it in a vampire adventure, that was kind of a lot. But I did read through the adventure. I thought it was really fun. There are really cool little snippets about Astarian in it. I'm a big Astarian fan. I'm actually friends with Neil Newbon. So it was just it was nice to see content like that. And I think Wizards should make more of that stuff, especially since in the past, I'm going to be completely honest, D&D's been really behind on sometimes things are happening, like Stranger Things, right? And we're seeing them catch up now. We're seeing them okay, we got some Honor Among Thieves content come out during the movie. We got Stranger Things box set drop on the last season. But there were times where everyone was ahead of us, right? We didn't launch with Baldur's Gate content when the video game launched. And that's something that kind of synergy is why I hope to see more from Wizards of the Coast.
And going to a studio model like they have announced recently will hopefully help with all of that, as well as with new hires that can help keep up with whatever projects. If you need to be agile in order to make something quickly or to slow something down or change something, the more people you have to be able to rely on, the better you can pivot.
Speaking of Stranger Things, because we were going to talk about that a little bit later, but I'm going to pull that up to now, because one little, I don't know whether this was deliberate or not. It looks deliberate. I can't remember where I saw this online, but somebody pointed out that the artwork of Vecna from the Vecna release that Wizards did, I think it was the year before last. Vecna in the new Stranger Things season, his redesign looks kind of, I suppose not suspiciously, but conspicuously a lot more like the Wizards of the Coast artwork for Vecna. The silhouette is a lot more similar. The waistline is really slimmed down, and the little tubular bits that Vecna, Stranger Things Vecna has coming off his shoulders.
Two?
How many hands?
Too many eyes.
Too many hands.
Okay, fair enough.
That's a good horror adventure module right there. Too many eyes, too many hands.
I'd play it.
You know what you're getting.
All right, let's just start writing some of these ideas down.
Ghost Fire Gaming, publish it now.
I'm so sick of all these hands. Did anybody watch Stranger Things? There was a lot of D&D tie-ins for the later season. I'm just going to, if you haven't seen it yet, because it's still pretty fresh, going to put a little spoiler warning at this part of the, we're not definitely going to do spoilers, but if you still haven't watched it and want to go in completely fresh, we'll put timestamps down below. Did you enjoy it, Todd?
I did enjoy it. I will say I really enjoyed it. It very much felt like a D&D adventure. I do not think Vecna is based in any way off of the redesign that occurred 2 years ago. However, it's a good call out because the silhouette is not dissimilar. I think it's just a really juiced up Vecna with a lot of CG, and they got a lot more budget because before it was mostly a suit with a little bit of squirminess happening, and this is just like roided out Vecna for season 5. I do feel like they're constantly antagonizing me, and I've been thinking about doing a video about this because I went back to watch season 1 and a bunch of other things. They're always getting it slightly off when it comes to D&D, and I don't know if there's like a consultant. I don't have knowledge about this, but like there is a moment where they talk about alignments, and like instead of saying chaotic evil, they say chaotic bad, and they say there's only 2 chaotic alignments. I'm just like, why are you trolling me? Why are you trolling me inside? When you roll for Fireball in the first episode and you get a 7, I'm like, that means nothing. Why are you antagonizing D&D fans in this way? So like all those little rule things are off. I do appreciate that they keep on bringing up sorcerers. I don't believe they were in 3rd edition. Second edition. But I'm not going to split hairs on that one. But yeah, I really enjoy it. It's just weird that they get these little itty bitty things wrong that are kind of like unnecessarily wrong.
It's just to signal to you that it's a slightly different reality from ours.
That's true.
That's the main
you just
clue.
made it okay.
Not
you just
the monsters, the D&D stuff.
And I mean, to be honest, to somebody who was that age at that time, we just made shit up. Straight up, we just did what we wanted. And so I'm the same way, right? There are 2
That's true.
critics inside Shawn, and one is like, "Oh no, that's not how that worked," and the second one's like, "Hell yeah, that's exactly how that worked because we were doing whatever we wanted."
Which critic wins?
We were joking in the office, though, at how bad Mike is at DMing because you just have the DMPC kind of pop in at the end and save the day without even rolling any dice or anything.
Haven't we all had that DM at one time or another?
That's a good point. Yeah, no, that's
realism.
That was weird.
Too much narration. Need more interaction, Mike, in your game. So
he told the players stories for them. Like, that's
pretty much. I mean, even when the monster that they were playing D&D with pops out, and then he's just like, and it bites you, and now you're going to take damage, and I'm like, there's no time to react. There's no get the play. What are the players doing, Mike? What are the players doing?
But to Shawn's point, this is narrative, and also, I mean, like it's this. And Dael, it's I'm splitting hairs about the rules because like in a world where 2 universes are colliding, no, I don't like this thing. I remember watching there's a moment in Star Wars I was watching with my dad. He's like, a military organization would never act like that. I'm like, there are laser swords, Dad.
But I suppose it's that thing where you only know it's wrong if it's the thing that you know a lot about, Yes. It's the way we're going to fight AI, Every time there's a picture of a movie set and all the gaffers come out of the woodwork going, why is the lighting like this?
That's perfect.
Well, speaking of people behind the scenes, there was a recent interview with 2 Critical Role executives, Ed Lopez and Ben Vanderfluet, who you probably have never heard of in relation to Critical Role, but it is because these 2 folks are very much behind the scenes over at Critical Role. I'm going to hopefully get these titles right. Ed Lopez is the Chief Operations Officer. Ben Vanderfluet is the Senior Vice President of Business and Content Development. They gave an interview to Business Insider to give you an idea of what these 2 folks kind of tackle in the simplest possible terms. There was a quote from that interview where one of them said, the moment that like Matt or Marisha or Travis or whoever else have to worry about how many units of a book to print, that's these guys' job instead, whilst the founding team kind of focus on more the creative, the production of their animated shows, of the stream, of all the other kind of stuff. So they're kind of tackling the business side of things. But they had a few interesting little tidbits that came out of this interview, starting off with Daggerheart apparently selling through a year's worth of stock that they had printed within 2 weeks after its May launch. That's pretty staggering for them, I'm sure.
I mean, it's very reminiscent of the early days of Critical Role where they would say, we don't know if people are interested in merch, but we thought we'd give it a go. So if you go to the website, they're all sold out. That was like, it felt like a return to that, reading those words. I was like, it's still there, the magic.
Oh, no. Well, I mean, so we don't know what the specific units are. I 100% believe it. I got the general impression of pure shock. I think they knew they had a really good game system on their hands, but other systems had not taken off for them, like Clair Obscura and stuff like that in the same way remotely. But that excitement you can remember being at Gen Con also. There was this excitement. I ordered the book. And from Amazon. I was supposed to get it very soon, and then it was like delayed by months. And that I think that speaks volumes to the level of excitement. And if the Kickstarter was kind of the same way, right? When they were trying to do the animated show, they didn't know. They just hope. You have no idea if something's going to take off sometimes. So yeah, it's a nice return to that.
Well, it's interesting as well because you point out we don't know, and they didn't say in the interview exactly how many units they were expecting to sell. And the other thing I think we've talked about a little bit on this podcast, somebody wrote in a question, I can't remember if we took it or not, but it was talking about the idea of ghost games, I think was the idea that somebody said, where it's a game that you buy to kind of have rather than to necessarily play, right? And if you look at the Daggerheart box, it's extremely pretty. It looks like a collector's item, even more than something that you would throw in your backpack and take to your friend's house and bash up and sort of necessarily play with, right? Not saying that wasn't the intention for it to be played with, but that it almost was a piece of merch unto itself as much as it was like a practical game. And so whether that was kind of in their thinking, and I'm just hypothesizing here, whether that was in their thinking a little bit of we're not selling this as in how many copies of a game can we sell? We're selling this as a merch item. So it's not, we're not thinking in terms of install base, how many copies of the player's handbook can we get into people's hands so that they'll then buy our adventures as well, but rather how many people want this because they're fans of Critical Role as opposed to want to play the game. Is that making sense?
Yeah, no, 100%. In fact, most Kickstarters are kind of based off that.
And it's interesting, Lawbart in chat brought up a good point. They say when you're not doing a crowdfunder, it's much harder to anticipate the level of demand for a product like this.
And that's why what's interesting to me is not the initial sales of these games, whether it's Draw Steel or Cosmere or Daggerheart. What is going to be interesting for me is the follow-up, because maybe Critical Role fans are buying it because it's merch. Will they buy the next thing because it's a game?
Yeah, like Hope and Fear.
Draw Steel, we saw great sales for their Kickstarter or their backer kit or whatever, and now they've followed it up with Crack the Sun, which just got off of backer kit at 2.6 million.
Yeah, so it earned about half as much, and I think about a quarter of backers as the first one. So
yeah, about 10,000 backers, or 10,000 backers, 9,500 and some. So that tells me that this is being bought by people who are going to play it. I want to see Daggerheart when they come out with something that only the gamers are going to buy.
Yeah.
That's the number that I'm going to be interested in seeing.
It's an interesting point because, like you said, you do see these box sets that have toys and eight things of dice and all these weird coins and blah blah. And those are definitely keepsake types of things. But yeah, Shawn's dead on. It's how Hope and Fear does. The fact that they worked immediately to get something like Hope and Fear done tells me they feel that this is definitely a growing audience, that they are all in on this, and they are generally, I think, surprised. But you can watch The Void with their playtest materials, and you see them working and trying to make more content. So my suspicion is there are a lot of people who are in fact playing Daggerheart, and I'd love to hear more numbers about how many, but I know for who was it? We had I've definitely heard rumors that they are doing very well in the online spaces. So think things like Demi playing, it's been great for them.
Gotcha. Yeah. Because I was literally just thinking in my head, I was like, yeah, it's a shame they don't have a D&D Beyond that can literally track numbers behind the scenes, in terms of sales.
Well, they wouldn't want to share those numbers necessarily anyways. One thing
that's true.
You did make me think of this is not true of Daggerheart, but when we talk about shortages for products, there are companies that do this. Very big, famous companies. And this is not Wizards of the Coast, but I'm aware of other ones that I've worked with or worked for where they plan shortages and they release product in basically tiers throughout the year to create FOMO and buzz, and that this is a very well-oiled machine. This is not that, in my opinion, remotely. But that is something that does happen in the gaming industry for sure.
So many times at Gen Con, you will hear a company say, "Oh, our game is so popular, it's sold out in 10 minutes because they only put out 20 copies of their game." Right. And at the end of the show, you see them loading hundreds of copies onto pallets to ship back to the warehouse. But, it's a marketing thing. And like Todd said, no evidence that's what's happening here, but it's just something to be aware of as people throw out words like sold out and percentages and all of those things. Tell me the units and then I will know.
Yeah. But another thing I do watch is video traffic. And Daggerheart videos still do well for people like Ginny D, for other people.
Yeah, we talked about that a little bit last year, because in the wake of the OGL stuff, and this would be interesting to get your take on, Todd, in the wake of the OGL stuff, there was a push away from D&D, and a lot of a lot of content creators were exploring, okay, so what if we made videos for Pathfinder? What if we made videos for Tales of the Valiant? What if we made videos for, X thing, other system? And I think almost like a rubber band effect, a lot of them came back to D&D, or YouTubers, but also like news websites, like blogging sites will often do this, where even if the article's about a different game system, they'll put D&D in the title for the SEO and be like, the biggest challenger to D&D, or like, this game's like D&D but grim, or whatever it happens to be, because the search traffic and what people are searching for is pushing towards D&D. So it's very difficult to get a foothold if you're not talking about D&D or quote unquote the popular thing. And at least from my personal algorithm, and everybody's algorithm is very different. We learned last year Cosmere apparently very popular for some people's algorithms, but Daggerheart feels like it has that staying power a little bit more in terms of the public interest, in terms of what is being searched and constructing that, driving that SEO traffic. Am I using the right words there? Is that making sense?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm talking way too much in this episode, by the way.
Bring it on.
I feel like I have first character syndrome right now. Another issue that I constantly run into is like, if you are a YouTuber, you are getting advertising money, and you have to really dig into the analytics, but sometimes there's spending more money for certain keywords like Critical Role, or it'll be D&D, and those people may not even know what the difference is with D&D, and so you're seeing, okay, wait, I'm making X more amount of dollars for an advertiser who's just shoving YouTube advertising towards anything that's D&D related in general. Plus, D&D is kind of turned into Coca-Cola. Like, I grew up in a household where they called everything Coke. And I love Pepsi. I'm sorry, Pepsi sponsor me. but that's very frustrating for Pepsi, right? Everyone keeps calling everything Coke. That's gotta be really annoying. Like, it's gotta be. I remember there was an article about criminals in prison playing Pathfinder, but it was, the article said as the headline, it was D&D. Criminals playing D&D in prison. That is so frustrating for other groups of role-playing systems. I mean, it's just, and it's frustrating for Daggerheart, I'm sure. It'd be fascinating if there was like a Critical Role game, right? But you don't necessarily want to do that right now because Critical Role is such a popular title and brand.
Sure.
What if you came out with a system that didn't meet,
expectations,
the popular and expectations of that giant name?
Something I think is so interesting about this, right? Because I started on YouTube, who even knows how many years ago now, right? And I was not a D&D creator. I was making, I made Greek mythology videos for Geek and Sundry, and then I transitioned into sort of just general variety content, and then later down the line landed on TTRPG. And I was making TTRPG videos, but I was also part of the first wave of people. I was making my videos probably around the time Critical Role started. I started making TTRPG videos. I was making Pathfinder videos, and I still called them D&D in the title. But in the time before me, most of the TTRPG creators who were making videos on YouTube, who were getting the clicks, were not necessarily dedicated D&D YouTubers. You had people dedicated to Call of Cthulhu, you had people dedicated to Pathfinder, and then people talking generally about TTRPGs. I remember very few who were dedicated to D&D specifically, and it was kind of alongside the rise of Critical Role, the rise of Stranger Things, that we all, I think, just kind of sensed that switch in the SEO and jumped on it. And I think that's led to kind of a cycle in that zone, because it's been an interesting thing to sort of watch change over time.
Yeah, that's an interesting cause and effect.
Yeah, and the Seth Sorkowskis of the world, who are still doing great, still making great stuff, but they don't get sort of that benefit of the algorithm because they stuck to their guns the whole way through.
Sure.
But folks like Ginny D will do much more abstract, conversations about role playing. I'm even trying to move my content to be more generalist.
Yeah, same.
Because I do want to kind of like push back on that, like everything has to be D&D-ness of it. But like Ginny D is basically giving advice for like very, very broad tabletop RPGs. Could be D&D, could be Daggerheart, could be something else. And keeping it kind of a little bit more agnostic, bringing in more audience. But it is hard not to put D&D in the title. I mean,
it's so weird, right? Like I can't, the number of videos I've made that are much more like D20 fantasy generally, rather than actually specific to D&D. But there were times where I was, I did a video where I talked about weather in TTRPGs and how to employ it narratively. Not a single mechanical piece of advice in the whole thing. It was all about narrative structure. But I still said D&D multiple times in the video and went, it's not actually about D&D. It can be about anything.
That's you kind of, at least from my feeling, a little bit damned if you do, damned if you don't both ways, because I agree. A lot of the videos that we produce for the Ghostfire channel do talk 5e mechanics a lot of the time, especially if I'm doing like the Bastion video, for example. We're talking Bastions from the 5e 2024 Dungeon Master's Guide. But there's videos that are intended to be more broadly applicable, like you just said, Dael, whether it's capturing a vibe or the weather or using mythology to kind of inform a villain for your video that could be applicable to any system, assuming that you're not using stat blocks or whatever. If you say D&D in it, you're drawing in the D&D SEO, but you might be turning away people that are explicitly looking for system agnostic and or non-D&D content. And so there's this kind of push and pull of like, no, but this is for you as well. Come look at it. But also it's for D&D people, but it's not D&D, but it's not explicitly please, everybody just come and see. I'm making it for all of you.
It's harping YouTuber.
Yeah, it is. Speaking of difficult things, the Critical Role executives, Ed and Ben, went on to talk about the success of the Amazon series, both Legends of Vox Machina and the Mighty Nine. Side note, the Mighty Nine, fantastic. I really enjoyed it. I thought that was a big step up from Legends of Vox Machina. And I suspect, I could be wrong, but I suspect it may end up being the more popular of the two series, just in the kind of broader non-tabletop fandom zeitgeist. But they talked about how the success of those two series have opened a lot more doors for Critical Role in terms of further partnerships, and then looked at, they're looking for partners that they can collaborate with, partners that match their vibe, which is a very Critical Role thing to say, I feel, of like, who's cool? Who do we want to work with? Who's cool? And talking about, merch opportunities, they specifically shout out footwear. And I am shocked there is not a Converse shoe with like Jester on the side of it. I guarantee Amazon-style Jester on an Amazon shoe, that's coming.
When I read that, I was like, that's ridiculous. Shoes for Critical Role? That's absurd. What a reach. And then I was like, but wait, my D&D Converse that I wear all the time.
Yeah. You want a hat that's got like the eye of Ford's patron on it or something, right? Anyone? Yeah, sure. Why not?
When you're right, you're right.
Yeah. So we know that Critical Role are working on a video game with Adhoc Studios, the makers of Dispatch, the superhero game that came out last year. And having since played Dispatch, I'm a lot more excited for that Critical Role video game because Dispatch is great.
Yeah.
Quick recommend if anybody hasn't played it yet.
This has got me thinking, and it's something that's been on my mind for quite a while, is like, how amazing is it that like you have a stream on Geek and Sundry that is not done with a great web camera or necessarily great audio, right? And it's Critical Role. And
some might even say it was bad audio at the time. Some might say.
Some might say. But to get to that point where you have a Kickstarter, you end up getting like just to make like one episode of a cartoon, and then you go like multiple seasons of that on Amazon, and now you've got another show that's getting a season and likely multiple seasons, and now they're onto a video game. They are growing very, very rapidly. When you compare that to D&D right now, considering D&D does not have currently a cartoon, right? We don't have a cartoon. We certainly don't have multiple seasons of cartoon, and we don't have two different cartoons running at the same time. And we may end up with like a third. If we keep on following the campaign cycle that we're seeing, it may go on and on and on. And then we've got the merch, and then we've got now a video game. D&D, I think, is going to be popular till the day I die. I think it's going to be probably the top role-playing game for 50 years, possibly. But like Critical Role is exponentially getting more popular. And they're making really smart decisions. And Adhoc Studios is one of those. Dispatch is a phenomenal game. And that's a great bunch of people who came from like Telltale and studios like that. And I'm genuinely shocked how good that was. And check out the demo. That's also really amazing. So a Critical Role game makes complete sense in that same regard. I feel like they're making a lot of really smart decisions. And I can't, this is me pontificating, but I can't imagine how much they must be so afraid of making the wrong one.
Sure.
Right? Like to have that many, like they have plenty of successes on their belt. You want to maintain that. So I can see all that merch and all that stuff for sure.
The last point that they make here that I pulled out of this article was that they talk about the Critical Role legacy, wanting to build up the personalities on camera beyond just the Critical Role founders, which we can kind of see with Campaign 4, obviously with Brendan now GMing it, but also a lot of new faces, or at least new to Critical Role within the cast. And I thought this was interesting, looking to reach out to younger audiences beyond viewers on Twitch and YouTube. A bit of advice, guys. Maybe tone down the violence in Mighty Nine if you want to reach younger audiences, because there are some times where I'm watching that cartoon and I'm like, this is cool, this is great. Oh my God, did they have to animate that? I guess they did.
I don't know. I spent yesterday afternoon watching like a 2 and a 3-year-old body slam each other. I think they chill with the violence.
Yeah, but their skulls don't break open when they do it.
Give the children an axe. They yearn for the violence.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
That's the clip.
Yep, there we go. We have a short for this episode. Perfect. Unfortunately, we have had actually 2 passings in the tabletop RPG industry over the Christmas break. Tim Kask passing away. For folks who didn't know, Tim was the first full-time employee for TSR back in the day and a playtester for D&D First Edition. Tim was also an editor for Dragon Magazine before departing TSR in 1980 and went on to co-found the Eldritch Enterprises as publishing further TTRPG adventures. Their legacy within D&D specifically, folks will know their wizard named Quailish, who was canonized into D&D via the apparatus of Quailish, which is still a magic item in the Dungeon Master's Guide to this day. Our thoughts obviously with Tim's family, and I'm just learning this morning as well, we have Steve D, who's an Australian tabletop RPG designer, designing a Matrix-themed tabletop RPG called There Is No Spoon, and also creating Tin Star Games, passing away as well. So sad for those two. Thoughts with their families. And yeah, it's always sad when we lose folks in the industry. We're going to go to some listener emails. And Todd, this is the ultimate test.
Oh, good.
Do you know the email address for folks to email the podcast?
This is the hazing ritual.
I don't.
That's all right. We'll let you off the hook this week. Dael, if folks were going to email this podcast,
they would email podcast@ghostfiregaming.com.
Very good. Shawn, just making sure I'm doing a full test. If folks were to email this podcast,
It is indeed podcast@ghostfiregaming.com.
great. I will expect full marks next week, Todd. Just making a note here.
I feel like a failure.
The panic that grips your heart when Ben asks that question never leaves.
This was an interesting question that I suspect there may be some different answers on. This came from Tia, a regular emailer of the podcast, who's asking, how much of a stickler are you for playing monsters, quote unquote, by the rules behind the screen? I'm paraphrasing this email a little bit. The example that T gave in their email is if you have a goblin who is fighting with their sword and their shield and then drop those 2 items to pull out their bow, do you change the goblin's armor class in their stat block to reflect that? Do you make the goblin stow the shield or don the shield as an action, as it now is in 5e 2024? How do you kind of run stat blocks in terms of like the strict rules of the game?
If they call me out on it, I'll give it to them. But like, that's so much busy work for the Dungeon Master. I'm sorry. God. Yes. No, that is -2 to the AC. Like, if someone calls me out, yeah, okay, you got me. I will totally do that. You see that with like live streams with Brennan. People will call him out on a rule or something, and he'll adjust or whatever, or make something retroactive. But like, that's so much busy work. And I'm not. I fudge stuff on stat blocks all the time. I hate stun and paralyzing effects in D&D. I feel like it takes a turn away from players. Like, ghouls are really dangerous. There's a couple of like mechanical creatures like. But the entire group almost died because of stunning effects. And not only is it so easy to get a complete total party kill from those, stealing a turn from a player sucks. It's not fun for them. They don't get to do anything narratively, and it bums me out. And I tend to like strip things that I don't like of monsters all the time, because I know if I use it, they may get destroyed. But that's a good point about the goblins. But don't make me do that much work.
Fair.
I feel very similarly to how Todd feels, except I try to understand, since I often run for strangers, I try to understand what they want out of their game. And if I get a group that's sitting down at a convention for maybe an organized play campaign, or God help us, in a competitive game like the D&D Open, then that's when you need to follow the rules, because these folks want a game. They don't want a story as much. They want a story, but not as much as they might want the game. So at that point, I'm taking cover more into account, right? I'm considering these things. Even then, I may still make some tweaks if I need to, but that's the only time I will really be a stickler for those sorts of rules.
I would love to be the kind of person who has the wherewithal to track that sort of a thing. That sounds great. That sounds really good. When I began running games in Pathfinder 1, where they actually lay out, they're like, here's your flat-footed AC, here's your regular AC. These are the things that contribute to it. So it was like the numbers right in front of me. Maybe I could have done that back then. But these days, I'm trying to remember not to skip anyone's turn. I'm trying to remember the playlist in the background. I realize halfway through is playing the like peaceful, mystical camp music, not the boss combat music. There's a cat on the table knocking over the minis. I'm just trying to keep things together. So the idea that I am able to track anything accurately, it's just not possible. It's just not possible. I can't do it, and I won't do it. And frankly, I'm on record having said that the best session of combat I ever ran was the one where no one really had hit points. I just kind of went, this one will probably die after like 2 hits. If someone hits really hard, it'll die in 1. If someone hits really weak, it'll take an extra hit. But that's all I tracked. And it was wonderful.
Here is where the people who are watching you, right? They're watching the TV show, yelling at you because you're having people roll for Fireball, or you're having, right? So you can scoff at those people, but you are doing it too. You are Mike. You people. You are Mike.
Oh, yeah. We are all Mike.
We are all Mike.
I had the image of Dael in my head with like a trombone and an accordion and a drum with a step thing, whatever that thing is called, and just like, yeah, let me just say AC for you.
That's how it feels.
Yeah, the CPU in your brain is melting down all the time, and you're like, hey, wait, the AC should have been 2 less. I'm like, yep.
I wish the CPU in my brain was a little bit stronger, because I sort of at base level agree with all of you. I don't think there's anything wrong with like, I fudge monster stat blocks, absolutely, or change things within the stat block, even on the fly. If I'm like, okay, I think this combat maybe is a little too difficult, or I want this monster to have this specific ability. But for my enjoyment as the DM, I like the verisimilitude of of equipment mattering on the monsters, right? Of their stats feeling unique to this monster, right? Why do they have an AC of 18? Is it because they are armored? Like 18 doesn't make a difference between a hobgoblin and a bullet, just guessing at the two similar AC creatures. It doesn't actually functionally make a difference to the game. But in my mind, I like to think, no, he's heavily armored. That's why he has AC 18. And it makes me feel, as the DM, more immersed in the story as it's unfolding.
And that's noble. But I think I will only do that on a boss monster where I feel like it matters. Like if it's a pack of goblins, I don't care. I don't care. I can't care. But if I want it to matter, then I'm like, okay, well, this bullet has an 18, and if they want to reduce that, they can strip off bits of armor, and that will be built into the action of the combat. I think is kind of how I end up thinking about it.
I just want to clarify though, like I'm not doing that because I think it's like a noble thing that the GM should.
No, I was just calling you noble.
Oh, thank you.
Because Sven Bird is an honorable man.
Well, I try my best.
It's a good.
But,
well, I mean, it's not even about not caring. I will just forget.
Totally.
I don't care. Steam is coming out of my ears. Like I am doing my best. I got like reactions wrong for counterspell. I like double counterspelled someone, and I'm like, what am I doing? Like, but I'm like
Fair.
2 hours into a game when my brain is gone. So
That's why I actually kind of like having a rules lawyer at the table, though, is because they are your defense attorney. If you get a rule wrong, is you just kind of turn to them and be like, actually, have I forgotten something here? And they're like, yeah, you forgot this. And it's like, thank you, rules lawyer. Thank you.
Well, my favorite thing is when I can say I was there when that rule was written. Or when that stat block, I was in the room. Or sometimes maybe that monster with my wife and I made.
Witch.
Yeah, I don't think that's the rule for using a +1 longbow with Eldritch. You know, with the oh my god. I just screwed up this analogy.
Lorecast.
With Pact of the Blade. Like, yeah. I don't think you can use a bow with Pact of the Blade. I'm like, technically you can if it's +1. Like, I don't think that's how the rule works. I'm like, I was there.
Yeah, I'm just imagining you enjoying the, let me just get Jeremy on the line.
Yeah.
Beep, boop, boop, boop. Hello. That's how the rule works. Shawn, what were you going to say?
I have had players where tactically they say, you know what, if we all attack from range, these goblins will have to pull out bows to attack us, and their armor class will go down too. And so if you have players that are like that, then you have to feed them that joy, right, of their tactics. So you just have to be aware. Again, you just have to be aware of your audience.
No.
Yeah, that's for
No.
that for me is like the skill of like satisfying the players by making them feel like they're good at the game, by coming in and making a insight check on a character, not to detect if they're lying, but to get a gauge of their personality, and then deciding whether intimidation or persuasion is more likely to be successful with this particular character. And then when they make the right call, then they feel rewarded for having, or if they make the wrong call and they try to roll intimidation and the DC is really high and they fail it, they can look back and feel like that makes sense, and it's not just the GM saying, nah, you don't succeed. You know what I mean? And so finding those kind of tricks by manipulating the rules is, to me, kind of the skill, what makes you feel like a fighter or a bard outside of just what the stats on your player sheet say, is finding ways to manipulate the stats on your player's sheet to be able to gain advantage within the game.
All good points. However, the cheat is the goblins are wearing shields on their heads. And this is my new character. I'm making a goblin whose entire hat is a shield.
Great.
We will call him Shieldhead.
Shieldhead. I mean, He-Man, like Ram Man, it's a character.
Why not?
Like,
I feel like that'll go perfectly. We'll get James Hake to design it right alongside the Goblin Stabby
Make it
Stabber.
canon.
We'll have the Goblin Shieldy Shielder.
Shieldhead.
Yeah.
Pyramid
Shield
Head
head.
technically
The
has a shield
Goblin
head. So,
King.
yeah.
I
That's
do feel that I need to give a voice to people who responded to my story about the goblins that took 2 hits. They were actually red caps, not goblins, but it doesn't matter. But people made a very good point, which is
You're a red cap.
I am a red cap, soaked in the blood of my enemies.
That's my favorite line from campaign 4. I'm going to put my hat on you, pat my hat in you. Brendan voices a red cap.
Oh my god. But a lot of people made a very good point, which is that, they've built their character in a certain way. They've chosen certain abilities, and they're like, but I added a smite to it. Like, doesn't that matter? Doesn't that mean something? Doesn't it take away from it if you are, it's kind of like when you try to fix something for the fighter and it ends up messing up the rogue's sneak attack. Those kinds of interactions that you don't kind of think about as an aspect of broader player experience. And it does have to be said that a bunch of people spent a lot of time playtesting these rules to make sure that they were pretty balanced, and that if you play closer to the rules, it's probably going to be closer to balanced. I'm just saying that I don't do it.
Yeah, I agree with you. Like the thing that I go to pains to explain to players during a session 0 And this is specific to the campaigns that I like to run as well. In Grim Hollow, magic is kind of people are extremely superstitious about it, but magic is also not easy to wield. And so to create that vibe, even though the player is just like, I cast light because I can do it endlessly, or I cast, Ray of Frost or whatever, magic is unmistakable. It is magical when it happens. You are bending the laws of physics. So even something that seems simple to your character looks amazing and miraculous to somebody else's character. And so where I'm going with this is not letting people get away with having subtle spell when they're not a sorcerer and saying like, oh, I just like whisper the words under my breath. I'm like, that doesn't work. It's very specific, the things you have to do to make this spell work. You have to pronounce it because you have to demand that nature changes for you or the spell will not take effect unless you take subtle spell, in which case you have the ability to manipulate your magic in those ways, even if there's not a sorcerer in the party,
Play an Aberrant Mind Sorcerer in D&D. You'll have a great time because no one knows you're doing it. And I even have a character who is an Aberrant Mind Sorcerer who causes Everett's black tentacles and tentacles to appear and stuff, and aberrant creatures to run around, and then he solves the problem for the town.
Great.
It is me, your savior.
The frighteners.
The fireman who sets the fire.
Yeah. Eldritch fireman.
Speaking of Eldritch firemen, you know what? I'm going to save that for next week because we are pushing up against time.
2 hours. Let's do 2 hours.
Yeah, that was the Matt Colville. The last episode Matt was on, I felt he was like, "Let's keep going. I can keep going. Let's keep going for hours." I was like,
"This is social interaction for me right now, guys."
This is Are you in the cupboard as well with Adam Carnivale? Is that what I'm hearing?
And Joey,
it's an in-joke.
You'll come up to now.
We're all in the cupboard.
We've cracked open the cupboard.
That's a good adventure title too.
Speaking of cracking open the cupboard, it is time for this podcast to go back inside the cupboard for another week because we are... Don't click off the video yet. We're done. But you can click off the video after you've heard that. We will be here live on Twitch at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 3 p.m. Pacific Standard Time on a Monday. That is 10 a.m. on a Tuesday. If you're in Australia, we're here every week. You can come hang out on the Twitch chat. Todd, folks, if they're listening to this podcast, probably already know, but where can folks find you if they want to hang out with you some more?
Conveniently, it's always Todd Kenreck.
That is convenient.
I'm a mastermind with this. Yeah, it's just Todd Kenreck on Instagram, YouTube. I'm always doing stuff on YouTube. I'm trying to get more TikTok followers so I can monetize it.
That's
Join me on TikTok.
The new frontier.
Must be nice to be able to monetize TikTok.
Yeah, that would be lovely. You gotta get 10,000 followers.
How do you feel the first episode went? Are you feeling the regret yet?
Not knowing the podcast email, and somehow I'm so scared I still don't. Deep inside, I feel like I talk too much. But yeah, no, I had a great time. All you are so wonderful. I've known some of you beforehand. It's such a good time to like hang on and talk. And I'm not kidding. This is wonderful. This is great socialization for me. I'm not joking.
We are so incredibly pleased to have you.
Welcome to the podcast at Dog Park.
Yeah. Exactly, and don't worry, you've got a week to study for the email address, so that's not a problem at all. We will be back next week. Likes, thumbs, stars, stuff to help us get out to more listeners, and we will catch you next time. I've been Ben Byrne, here with Todd Kenreck, Dael Kingsmill, Shawn Merwin. They're that way, actually. Ba-ba-da-ba-ba-da-ba-ba-da. Ba-ba-ba-da-ba. Ba-ba.